Hello again, welcome to Lost and Found Tarot channel. Today we're going to do another unsolved case. And if you've watched a previous one, you might know how this goes, but I'll just walk you through it. So tarot is a great tool we can use for a lot of things, personal development, healing, helping others develop themselves and heal. But we can also use tarot as the witness to things that have not been seen by eyes that are on this earth anymore. So one thing I like to do, one thing that I feel called to do, is to use tarot as a tool to help figure out what happened in some cases. When people went missing, every time I see like an Amber Alert or a story about a missing child or a missing person, I go to the deck, see what I can find out, and then pass that information along. But sometimes in your practice, people might come to you with a question about something that happened a long time ago, or something where the people involved are not accessible. Perhaps they've gone missing. Perhaps something terrible happened to them, and they're looking for closure, they're looking for something, and tarot can help us out here. So today we're going to go through and find a person, find a case, and see if we can find information about it. So I'm going to use this. There's many missing persons databases out there, so this is just one of many. But because I am in Canada, I tend to use this one a fair bit. So I'm going to pick a province, pick British Columbia. And what you want to do is, if you do this, find a database, and if you don't have someone already in mind, you're going to go through and scroll, and you're going to wait until you feel like you have to stop. Oh, that seems to be the end of the BC cases, so... And if I pause and stop talking, it's just because I'm thinking, and I can't do two things at once very well. I think we need to do this one, the Jack family. And I did not look at this prior to. So one of the things that you have to do before you even bother with the deck is read what is known about the case. So this site generally has a lot of details about what you want to, about what happened. It's characterized up here, kind of like keywords and whatnot. But let's just have a quick look. I'm going to read some of it, so you don't have to, but you can anyway. So this is the Jack family. Prince George, BC. I'm not from BC. I'm not very familiar with Prince George, but we can pull up a map if we have to. But, okay. August 2nd, 1989. Missing families are not all that common. This one was published June 5th, 2020. Okay, so it hasn't been updated for a couple of years. So we're looking at a family of 4 people. Oh, these are age progression photos. Okay. Okay, so they've been missing since 1989, so over 30 years. Okay. Doreen and Jack, age 26. Ronald Jack, 26. Oh, this is a young family. Okay. We have a picture. They were on paper. Okay. So I'm just going to read this a little bit. August 1st, 1989. Ronald Jack left the First Leader pub in Prince George, feeling hopeful. He had been out of work due to a back injury, and the family had been living on welfare. Someone at the bar offered to help. There was a job opportunity at a logging camp 40 kilometers west of Prince George. I don't know what bucking logs is, but that was the job offer. Oh, cook's helper. Okay, so it would have been a really good opportunity. Offered to drive them to the job site that night. That does seem too good to be true. Here's a picture of the pub at the time, I believe. Okay. met an unidentified man at the First Leader pub. Offered a job. Okay. Same as above. At 11:16. Okay, Ronnie called his brother, told him about a camp job. 2 hours later, he called his parents. So 11:16 p.m. So he called them early in the morning. 10 to 14 days. Okay. At 1:21 a.m., August 2nd, all 4 members of the Jack family were seen leaving their home, piling into the man's 4-wheel drive dark-colored pickup truck, and they were never seen again. Oh, jeez. Okay. The family was officially reported missing on August 25th, so a lot of time had passed, actually. Oh, and their disappearance is the first and only of its kind in Canadian history. 7 years later, the most significant tip about the disappearance came early on Sunday morning in January. Okay, 7 years later. January 28th, 1996, 8:33. A man in Stony Creek, BC, called with a brief message. The Jack family are buried in the south end of the ranch. It was over in 10 seconds. The caller hung up before dispatch could ask. Investigators published several appeals asking the person to call again. March of 96, the voice recording was analyzed. They traced the call to a house in Vanderhoof, where a house party had taken place during the time frame of the call. It's unclear if the caller was ever identified. That was the first tip. Okay. They have conducted hundreds of interviews, thousands of documents, searched several properties in search of Ronald, Doreen, Russell, and Ryan. Most recent search took place in 2019 at a property south of Vanderhoof on the Segas, I hope I pronounced that right, First Nation Reserve. Ground-penetrating radar were used. No trace had been found. Okay, here's a map. Okay. Last seen here. Okay. Property was searched over 3 days, but I don't know why this property would have been searched. And it seems like, did they search this area? Where, And this was the tip over here. So we've got, I don't know the distance between all of these places. Okay. Oh, suspect. Shit. The description of the man who offered the job. The prime suspect. Okay. Described as Caucasian, 6 to 6'6", tall with reddish brown hair, short, full beard and mustache. His hair went to the bottom of his ears, parted on one side. Oh, he was a big guy. Okay. One awful thing. I mean, I don't even know if we need to ask the cards if they're just. I'm definitely getting a sense that they are most certainly deceased, and what we can do is see what we can do. See if there's information that we can get through tarot, right? So we're going to access the collective subconscious right now, and one way you can look at it is imagine a spiritual Google. That helps me kind of, like put that metaphor, in a more solid place in my mind. So first things first, we should grab a notepad, and we have to talk about, so we're gonna do, I was thinking about doing Celtic Cross for this one, just because it's easier to show. I can describe every card position and what it's supposed to be, but with so much here, I'm gonna do a 22 card spread, rather, okay? So for this, there actually is no card positions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to stop recording for a minute and do that, and when I come back, I will have it up on screen for us to look at. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I shuffled and I laid the spread, and I just put it up on screen so it's easier to see. So let's have a quick assessment of the landscape. So when you do a spread like this with lots of cards, and at first it can feel a little overwhelming, that's okay. So just start by taking some basic stats. So we have 6 Wands cards, 4 Swords cards, 5 Cups cards. You can see them over here. Just 2 Pentacles cards, 5 Majors, and then we have 10 reverse cards and 12 upright cards. And that, so if you had a majority of a particular suit of card, if you had a bunch of repeating cards, so if you had a bunch of 4s, if you had a lot of aces, if you had a lot of court cards, those would mean things on their own. But here it's fairly balanced. We do have more wands than any card, so we definitely see that there was action of some kind, and that makes sense, right? Because while this is going to give us answers, it's also showing us what happened, right? So tarot is a mirror. It's giving us a picture of what happened. Okay, and what we can do about it, or just a view of things as they are. So we do have 1 king, 1 queen, 1 knight, and a page. 2 aces, both upright. So this is a story spread. No card positions are assigned, but the most significant cards are the first 2, the center, and the final bottom card, usually. So the first 2 cards describe the motivation for the Jack family to have been in that situation in the first place. The 7 of Wands is showing us laying down defenses, and the 7 of Cups, it was because there appeared to be a once-in-a-lifetime chance for the family to change their circumstances. The first column also describes the situation because we have Ronald putting false faith in a stranger who offers him a job. And the stranger is represented by the Magician, reversed, because he's the one abusing his power. And that point is underlined by the 6 of Pentacles, which, if you've seen any of the other videos where this card comes up, it is way more than just offering payment. It is much deeper. While we do have the stranger making their false offerings, so down here, if we imagine this applying to the situation, so we have the stranger offering something to the receivers, and that being the Jack family. And this card is generally about power and who wields it. The Magician, too, is also about how we use our power. But since he's inverted in this context, we see the dark side of the Magician, and that is the by any means necessary side. The Magician has distracted the Queen of Cups, who I believe is representing Doreen with his illusions. And I think Doreen had misgivings, or had her own intuitive sense that something wasn't right with this situation because of her position in the family, but she had to override whatever gut feeling that was and just go along with this. Imagine being the dead of night, your husband comes to you with an unbelievable opportunity, but you have to leave right then and there, no matter what. And for most people, those are giant red flags. And the reason I think this is the case is because that 9 of Swords, it's showing us the dark night of the soul. Look at all the faces that are covered in the spread. So I do feel her remorse at letting this happen to them. She knows she should have pushed back harder. And so this is not a traditional meaning that you'll find in any book, but the world reversed, well, maybe you will, I haven't read all the books, but in all the books I've read so far, the world reversed, it's showing us that they're no longer on this earth. They are buried, but where is the question? The Five of Wands down here, that's a spiritual card showing us release after a struggle. But it's not like this kind of release, so if this Ten of Wands were reversed, that would be a major letting down of burdens, but this one is another type of release. Because this is a 5, this is a release after severity, right? So 5s are Gevra, and that's the extreme of things. It's the opposite of Chesed, which is love, the container that contains the concept of love. So I wanted the spread to show us where the family was and where or who the killer was. And this is where you need to do some guarding or protection if you try this at home. When I looked at the police sketch of the stranger, I did get a distinct malevolence staring back. Where I do my readings is a safe place, and I do have measures put in to keep unwanted entities out, but even still, it could feel a violent rage. So if you do any of this on your own, you're going to have to be extremely careful about your spiritual protection. So this whole, the killer, he's confirmed by the King of Wands reverse next to the Ten of Wands. If you ever see this combination in your practice, if someone ever asks you for a reading and this comes up, or you're reading for yourself and you're in a hard place or you're just not sure, this is a run, do not walk. This is an extremely violent man who speaks with his body, and the language is pain. Usually this is a person who's only ever known a life of pain and abuse, and they grew up in an environment where that was present and unopposed. So I don't think the spread actually helps us identify the killer, who is quite possibly already dead himself, given that he was described as being in his 40s back in 1982. So what can we do? Let's try to apply some logic in addition to the cards. We do have the King of Wands reversed, and the the Knight of Pentacles together, and the Two of Wands together. This is something heavy and buried. Possibly there's something on top of the bodies that's preventing the ground penetrating radar from getting through. In the Ace of Wands, we also have a river and a castle in the distance. Is there a ranch that touches the river? I remember that there was a tip that was sent in, said the bodies were buried on the ranch. And I'm not sure if this is true, but if we lean on the cards for this, if we can trust in them, we have a lot of water cards in general. And even if they aren't cup cards, Two of Swords has water. Ace and Two of Wands, there's water here. Five of Swords, there's water in the background. So even the High Priestess, she's a very watery card. And I think the bodies are buried near Kluka's lake, the same area that the job that was being offered was supposed to be. And if you're a true crime consumer, you know a little bit about how serial killers behave. Generally, they follow a formula. They do not hunt where they live or frequent. That's not always a conscious decision. It's a visceral one. They have a buffer zone. In general, right? So I'm being very general here. If, for example, the killer or an associate of the killer lived in Vanderhoof and said something about the killing at a house party that was later called in, that might not mean that was the location where the bodies are. What if it was a misdirection? So what if the tip came in order to lead investigators off the trail? And I say this because I am so certain that the family is resting near water. Our hidden card, being the Ace of Cups, is showing us flowing water. Is it near a creek or a river? The investigation is not cleared or solved because there were too many demands on the resources they had at the time. Someone in charge called off further searches for a reason. Maybe there was too much on their plate, and I'm even sensing a lack of care, which is something that is very real in law enforcement. When leads go nowhere and trails get cold, it's hard to feel energized to keep looking. And the High Priestess is telling us that someone out there knows and will not say, but why is not clear. So if you are seeing the spread, I asked Tarot to help speak to you as well. If you're also trying to help clear this case and bring closure to this awful event, look at these cards and see what comes to you. You do not have to be a reader. You just have to be someone who's looking. For me, I'm going to go back to the part of the page that has contact information. And I'm going to see whoever's holding this case right now. Okay, it says, if you have more information on this case, please contact any of the following. Prince George RCMP. Okay. So I'm going to send a message to the Prince George RCMP. And when you do this is the part that's going to feel a little bit weird, especially if you're not accustomed to using psychic gifts to use as information on a real event, real case. How you communicate that to folks who are not necessarily going to take it seriously. Still, I will be honest, and I'll say that I'm a psychic, and I received a message that the family might be near a body of water. Because all I'm getting over here is water, so that has to be relevant. I trust tarot. I asked to be shown what the reality was, and this is what I'm being shown, and I believe that it is the case. So if you are out there, if you have any information on this case, please send anything you know to the investigators. The relatives and friends of the Jack family deserve to have closure, and so does the family.